In the lead up to the release of The Woman King, Viola Davis's new movie that was #1 at the box office has since been dethroned in its second week. Viola Davis's new movie about warrior women in Africa in the 1800s, about the Dahomey tribe. There's been some significant controversy surrounding the release because as people started to find out, the tribe that this is based off of, the tribe that is portrayed as the heroes of this story, the good guys in this story, in reality, they did some really bad shit. Viola Davis has been out there trying to do some damage control for it, trying to push back. And we've seen a little bit of a change in the way that people are promoting The Woman King. Originally, it was, hey, based off the true story of these female warriors in Africa, the Dahomey tribe, protecting their homeland. Now it's shifted to, well, it's all just fictionalized. This isn't really a true story, guys. Viola Davis and The Woman King director defend against Backlash, calling for the boycott of the movie. To be clear, the boycott was being called for by people in the Black community who didn't really appreciate how the history was being handled of all the people that enslaved their ancestors. The Woman King actress Viola Davis and director Gina Price Blythewood are speaking out about The Woman King social media backlash. In an interview with Variety earlier this week, Davis was asked about the film, which some feel doesn't address the Dahomey Kingdom's involvement in slavery, the outlet noted. First of all, I agree with Gina saying, you're not going to win an argument on Twitter. We entered the story where the kingdom was in flux, at a crossroads. They were looking for some way to keep their civilization and kingdom alive. What they did was they decided to enslave all neighboring tribes and sell them into the slave trade. That's how they survived. It wasn't until the late 1800s that they were decimated. Most of the story is fictionalized. It has to be. Now, people are very interested when they heard that because if people remember the lead up to this, it sounded a little different. Badass female warriors. Viola Davis to portray Dahomey warrior who struck fear in colonizers. I'm deeply honored and excited to bring the incredible story of these badass female warriors to life. Get ready for The Woman King, exclusively in theaters this fall. And if it was just that, I guess you could look behind it, but look at all the other ways it was being promoted by the people behind The Woman King and in these interviews with a lot of people in the mainstream media. Behold The Woman King, Viola Davis on playing the real-life warrior general. This goes into how proud she was to portray these people, how much she got to learn about these people, and they're glad that they're getting to put them on screen. What about this from the LA Times? How The Woman King makes Hollywood history with an incredible true story. That's the way that it was being pushed out there. These are the interviews that Viola Davis was doing, that the director was doing. They were talking about the inspiring true story based on real events of the Dahomey tribe, of the Dahomey people, defending their homeland against colonizers. When in reality, just like so many people that spoke out about this on Twitter, in reality, what was going on was they were warring with neighboring tribes. They were killing, they were enslaving people for their own benefit, to enrich themselves. And it wasn't until Europeans came down there and forced them to stop that the Dahomey tribes stopped keeping slaves and stopped selling slaves. That's the reality of the situation. That's the truth when you look behind it. Now, the lead up to this, in the years and months before this movie came out, and I had to archive this just so I could get access to it. This is what it was when it originally came out. How The Woman King makes Hollywood history with an incredible true story. Now you want to change your tune. Now you want to say, listen, we had to fictionalize everything. We had to make things up. We had to do different things. That's not how you portrayed it in the beginning. But it certainly is now that you've been caught red-handed. Now you're trying to say, oh, well, this is an alternate history. No, the reality is people caught you and people realized that you were trying to prop up these people that weren't the good guys by any stretch of the imagination. Now, I've said multiple times, I don't expect any movie in Hollywood that's based on some historical event to be wholly, completely historically accurate. And I don't expect them to address every atrocity that every person that's depicted in history does, because that's not reality. That's not realistic. But if you're trying to pass it off as a true event, if you're trying to pass off as, I'm so proud of these incredible women and their stories, but then people will come to realize, wow, these were horrible fucking people. Then you flip the switch, you say, well, really, we just had to fictionalize a lot. You're going to get called out. And that's exactly what's happened with The Woman King. Now, it is made somewhere around, $30-something million, $38 million over the first 2 weeks of release. It needs at least 125 to break even. It has a long way to go till it gets there. There's a potential this movie loses money. There's a potential that it just barely breaks even. Either way, a lot of that may depend on how well they're able to manage some of this backlash.
Thanks for watching, everyone, and a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.